Hello Chameleon Academy, this is Bill Strand and you've come to the video channel all about chameleons. And today I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 simplest ways that you can dramatically increase the quality of life for your chameleon. So let's set the stage. When you start off with chameleons, there is so much to absorb and there's information flying around all over the place and you don't always implement it exactly like you hear it. Let's set the scenario. You've started with chameleons, you've implemented the basic care requirements, you followed the care sheet, and now you're looking for what is the next step. Well, here we go. My first pick is to double your cage size. If you have the basic 2x2 by 4 foot tall cage, take a look. Do you have 1 foot of space on either side of that cage? Well, if you do, it's pretty simple to create an entire chameleon mansion from what you've got right now. All you have to do is purchase another 2x2 by 4 foot tall cage and put it right next to it and take out the middle wall. Now, if you think, well, wait a minute, can it really be that easy? You're right. It really isn't as easy as it sounds. I actually purchased 2 Reptibreeze XLs. Those are the 2x2 by 4 foot tall cages, just so I could do a step-by-step guide for the Chameleon Academy website. And yeah, I ran into a lot of really interesting things that I didn't think I'd run into. But the advantage you have is that I already ran into it and I built a step-by-step care guide and you can find it on the website with a complete shopping list and a step-by-step what you've got to do. So you've got the easy part. All right, so I'm going to share a little bit of my experiences in putting these 2 cages together so you know what you're running into. Well, before I do this, say if you've got a 2x2 by 4 foot tall cage, you can easily put another one next to it. If you've got the Exoterra, the 36 by 18 by 36, consider, you could go side by side, but consider doing one on top of that one. And that way you create a 6 foot tall cage. But for this example, I'm going to do the Reptibreeze XL 2x2 by 4 foot tall cage and putting one side by side. Now, you'll notice when you put these cages side by side that they don't fit flush together. And that's because there's pan head screws on the inside. And when you put them next to each other, the heads hit each other and it gives you about an 1/8 inch space between the 2 cages. Now, coincidentally, you need that 8 inch space so the latches on front move freely. So somewhere the universe knew that we were going to need 1/8 inch of space between the cages and gave it to us. Now to mend the cages so they stay together, I use Coroplast. That is the corrugated plastic like they use in lawn signs or political signs and put them on the lawn. And it's very easy to work with. It's inexpensive and you can find it pretty easily at your home improvement store. And if you don't want to go to the home improvement store, that's fine. I've got a link to buy it online in the shopping list on the website. And if you got Amazon Prime, you may as well exercise it. When you do this, you're going to have to cut out various strips of this Coroplast to navigate around all of the latches and the hinges and all that wonderful stuff. But it goes on pretty easily. Now, it looks okay from the outside. On the inside, you've created a 1/8 inch seam, groove, cavern all around the inside of the cage where the 2 cages meet together. And the problem is that escape feeder insects, spiders, whatever, are going to fill in that space. And so what I like to do is I get a bead of black silicone and I just close up that entire cavern or groove on the inside of the cage. And that is it. Yes, I've totally simplified it. It is going to be a bit of a project because you got to do a lot of cutting, a lot of measuring, and a lot of whoops, that didn't work out so well. So give it some time, give yourself an entire weekend to go through it. It's kind of tedious to do it, but the benefit to your chameleon is immense. If you are interested in doing this, go to the chameleonacademy.com website, go to the menu where it says projects, and under there, you're going to see something to the effect of doubling your cage. And under that is going to be a shopping list for everything you need and a step-by-step guide as to how to do it. Honestly, I would love to see thousands of the Reptibreeze XLs out there suddenly turn into double-wide Reptibreeze XLs. Your chameleon will love it. My second pick for increasing the quality of life of your chameleon is to get a drainage tray. There are any number of ways that people deal with the excess water that comes from the mister and the fogger and the drippers. And where does it go? Anything from paper towels and puppy pads to letting it seep out of the cage? But there is a serious health and hygiene problem with keeping the water inside the cage. And even worse, most of the commercial companies only offer a substrate tray, and that's a tray that goes inside the cage. You don't want to keep water inside the cage, not through a tray, not through paper towels, not through puppy pads, because what that does is it keeps water around where poop and escaped feeder insects can mix and mingle. This creates a wholly unhygienic system. And what you want is to get the water out of the cage. And this requires a drainage tray. If your cage does not come with a drainage tray, or if a drainage tray is not available for your cage, you can do a drainage tray hack and just get a tray meant for something else. Whether they're meant for collecting oil from oil changes, or it's a tray for the bottom of a dog crate, or even, and this is my favorite, the tray that you put artificial grass in so your apartment dogs can have a place to pee. That is actually perfect for a 4x2 foot footprint cage. So find one of these trays, and the important thing is that your cage is going to fit in the inside of the tray dimensions. Your next task is to build a standoff so the cage doesn't sit in the wastewater. And for that, I use 3/4 inch PVC piping, and I create a frame that goes inside the drainage tray, and then the cage sits on top of the frame. This is very simple to put together, and it gives your chameleon a more hygienic environment, and it makes it easier for you to clean up. Now, once you have the drainage tray, let's talk about creating more drainage. And if you have the standard PVC floor that comes with most cages, it's not watertight, but we want to increase the drainage. You'll notice if you have pots or anything on there, you'll get pooling of water, and that's what we want to avoid. So I go in and I actually drill holes in it, which are smaller than my feeder insects, of course. I don't want them crawling out and swimming away. But with an array of holes, you're going to get a whole lot better drainage. Just make sure if you do have potted plants on that PVC floor, they will create little indentations, and just make sure you've got some holes in those indentations so you don't collect water under the pots. And finally, you're going to want a way to get the water out. And what I do is I use a wet dry vac with a crevice tool. So I just go in and just suck up all the water once or twice a week. My wet vac of choice is the Home Depot bucket head, which is just this little unit that goes on top of a 5-gallon bucket. It's inexpensive, easy to use, and that's what I do. Once again, you can go to the chameleonacademy.com website, go under projects, and you can see a shopping list and a step-by-step guide to doing this drainage tray. Now, my third suggestion for increasing the quality of life for your chameleon is feeder diversity. Find different feeders. I know you're going to have a staple, probably crickets or dubia roaches, whatever they may be. Make it a point to every week, every 2 weeks, maybe every month, bring in something different, something exciting. And you're not worrying so much about the nutritional value. You're worrying about the mental stimulation. We're trying to enrich the chameleon's environment. And one easy way to do this is to give them some food that they haven't seen before. Flying, green, these kind of things, or worm-like, these kind of things are very popular with chameleons. And so have fun shopping around for your chameleon. They can be expensive, but go ahead and budget in for that. Make it a point to get them something new every so often. Whether it's silkworms or black soldier flies or waxworms or even mealworms, tomato hornworms, praying mantises, the list goes on and on. You know how many roaches there are? Green banana roach. Oh, that's a good one. The point is, give them something different. Even if it's a housefly, letting a housefly go inside that cage and you'll see that chameleon just all of a sudden wake up and start running around the cage after it. That's what you're looking for. My fourth point for the quality of life for a chameleon is to do a security check. If you've been listening to my podcast or you've been watching these videos, it's no surprise to you that a chameleon derives security from height and from being undercover. And so let's do a security check on your cage. Take a look at the cage. Is the basking branch at or above your head height? If it isn't, consider whether you can do that. Can you put it on top of a different dresser or get a shelving unit? Because honestly, you'll be amazed at the difference you're going to see in your chameleon when they are higher up. They become so much more calm. And so do what you can to give them that. And the second part of that is cover. That's thick foliage that they can have some comfortable perching branches behind and just hang out and not be seen. This is a little bit more tricky for people with screen cages because all sides of the screen cage you can see in. So you're going to have to go around and walk around the cage and see at what point you can see the chameleon. But it's critical for their mental health. My favorite way of doing this is I get two big pothos and I put them on either side of the cage. And then their leaves spill down the middle and it creates a wall of foliage that, of course, it's really easy for a chameleon to get behind. They can see out, but they also feel comfortable that nobody can see them. Even if you believe your chameleon is not nervous and doesn't need cover, you might be surprised when you actually provide it as to the difference in behavior of your chameleon. Even if they don't use it, just knowing that it exists does wonders for their mental health. And finally, my fifth pick for the quality of life for chameleons is to give them high humidity nights. Humidity has been a husbandry parameter in the chameleon community that hasn't gotten the attention that it deserves. And when we think about hydration for our chameleons, we generally think about them drinking. We don't think about the entire 24 hours. Well, living creatures, including us, lose moisture when we breathe. This is standard. This is how you fog up a window. But it's no big deal. We lose moisture, we drink, we gain it back, no problem. But when's the longest span of time where you're losing moisture but you're not drinking? That's nighttime. That's why you wake up thirsty, get a drink of water, replenish, and go on with your day. Well, your chameleon has to do the same thing as well. But what we know is that the drier the night, the more you get dehydrated during the night just by breathing. I mean, that makes sense. But the opposite is true, that the higher the humidity at night, the less dehydrated you get from breathing. And so if you give your chameleon high humidity nights, they don't get as dehydrated during the night. They don't have to drink as much during the day. And this is something that you can see for yourself. Now, if you're asking how do I implement this, well, that depends on where you live or what your ambient conditions are. If you live in an area where the nights are already very high humidity, well, then you've already got it. You don't have to do anything. Where I am, where I have very dry days and very dry nights, I use a fogger or humidifier. And how long I let it go at night depends upon the weather conditions. When things are very dry, I've got, we call these things Santa Ana winds. They come blowing through here and we get down to single digit humidity. When that happens, those foggers are going on all night and, through the day. But when the rains come in, we get a little bit of the monsoon type weather. Well, then I've got all the humidity I need. I throw all the windows open and let those wonderful ions come blowing through here. And so nobody can tell you exactly what you need for your situation. On the Chameleon Academy Care Summaries, I do give a sample hydration schedule that says fog for, say, between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. This is just a starting point. I encourage you to get to the point where you adjust that to match what your situation requires. How do you get 100% humidity during the night and then let the humidity fall during the day so all the surface is dry? That will be different for every keeper's cage. But I highly encourage you to take a look at the hydration cycle for your chameleon and decrease the amount of dehydration they get during the night. Basically, what you're doing is you're decreasing the swing between hydration and dehydration, and you're keeping them closer to the ideal hydration for their body. I mean, the swing between hydration and dehydration isn't a whole lot of physical stress on their body, but it is some stress, and if it happens every single day, it adds up. So this is something that you can do to increase the longevity of your chameleon. And so in summary, 1, give your chameleon double the space. 2, get drainage so you get that water out of there in a more hygienic situation within the cage. 3, feeder diversity. Give your chameleon the excitement of a green flying thing. 4, do a security check. Make them feel more comfortable, more secure. And 5, decrease the amount of dehydration they experience on a daily basis. Now, even if you knew all of this, it doesn't hurt to sit down in front of your chameleon cage with a nice cup of coffee and just look at the situation and see, is there any way that you can implement these items better? Part of the fun of keeping chameleons is observing the environment that we create for them and upgrading it and updating it on a constant basis. I want to thank my Patreon members for supporting this video outreach. You may have helped move 1,000 chameleons out there into chameleon mansions. Thank you for helping make that happen. And everybody keep in mind, you can find shopping lists and step-by-step guides on the ChameleonAcademy.com website. Just go to the menu and look for projects. And if you're interested in communicating me in real time, I go live on Instagram most Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, and I'm here on YouTube Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific. Unless I have one of those video premieres, and then that's at 8 a.m. and then I come on at 8:30. But just check out the channel for what's going on that particular week. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I wish you the best and your chameleon a green banana roach. Bill Strand signing off. I'll see you next time.